everyone, and welcome once again to Agent Carter Discussions. I'm Captain Logan, and with me tonight is the full panel. It's the Real Manos.
Hello, folks.
Dan Torrey.
What's good?
What's good? Steve Baxi.
Hello, everybody.
And as you can tell, Steve and Dan are both dressed up because we are recording this during the Oscars. And but instead of talking about the Oscars right now, we are going to talk about Agent Carter. And this is the penultimate episode of Agent Carter. This one is SNAFU. And I'm going to be really sad when this show is done. I thought this episode was absolutely fantastic. As we keep saying, I think it keeps topping itself. Let's go ahead and see what everybody else thinks, and start with the Real Manos. Manos, tell us what you thought about this episode overall, and give us the best moment, worst moment.
Well, this episode was fantastic. This, of course, is SNAFU. Agent Carter has been caught, and this episode, they deal a lot with the... I'm sorry, I'm getting a little echo in my head here.
That sounds like a personal problem. Oh.
Well, it tells me to kill people.
Oh, that's not good.
It's not disturbing to anybody. Anyway, what this episode does, I think it does very well, is the tension that brings it up, where she has to lay it out all on the table, literally, as she's being interrogated by all these agents that have been working alongside of her. Now, what's kind of increasing the tension is the fact that, like, is Thompson going to come in and beat the crap out of her while she's handcuffed to that table? That's been kind of during those scenes, that's kind of a lingering threat. I'll make this short because it really does sound like my connection's bad.
Oh, that's not good. You sound fine over here.
Oh, you do? Oh, I do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll just keep talking. I think my favorite moment, I'll get to my favorite moment. My favorite moment is when she just kind of gives up all her information of why she's doing it, telling them, like, the reason I'm doing this separate investigation isn't because I fell in love with Stark or I'm a traitor. It's because none of you trust me. None of you give me any solid work. None of you believe in me. So if I came to you, you wouldn't have, like, paid any attention. What's interesting, I thought of this while I was watching the episode, was that, these characters, if you hear them talk about Agent Carter throughout the series, they think she's kind of this lovesick puppet, essentially. Either, using her heart, kind of being controlled by it. And that's kind of the agents themselves, actually. They're the ones controlled by their emotions, and they're the ones who are, like, controlled by their heart. And she's actually more focused. And matter of fact, even the chief in this episode becomes kind of a puppet. So yeah, this was a really strong episode.
Dan.
I like this one a lot. I thought the tension was pretty high throughout the entire episode. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. My prediction from last week, I concede to Steve, he was right about who that character was. It's definitely Dr. Faustus. We saw him reading the play that that character's based on at the beginning, so that was pretty cool. And
never doubt the tuxedo guys. We're the tuxedo guys.
So that's pretty cool, actually, because that's a major Captain America character in the comics. I didn't expect that we'd get such an important character in that mythos, and what Ed Brubaker with his character with that character, his run is what I've read, and I like that character a lot. So it's cool that they're making this, using the show to introduce some major characters. That's really cool. I like that Dr. Faustus and Dottie are kind of the opposite of Jarvis. Peggy, they've got a cool dynamic going on. I'd like to see what they have, kind of things they get into in the future. That'll be really cool. As well, like Nano said, the thing that reminds the whole episode is the thing that gets the chief compromised. It's their romantic interest in the situation. So I thought that was really cool. And I don't know, I'm with you, Cap. I think this is, again, my favorite episode of the show so far. I thought it was really cool the way that the Chief went out and everything as well. So I can't recommend this one enough. It was great.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I just agree with everything Dan and Manos said. This episode was spectacular. It reminds me a lot of the Breaking Bad episode Ozymandias, where it's not the end, but it feels like it's going to be the highlight of the ending, where the way everything's paced and the way everything leads to that point. Everything we get with the Chief was just fantastic. I think ultimately that's my favorite moment, when he sacrificed himself at the end.
Yeah.
When we get that hallucination with him and his mind and all the stuff Faustus is doing to him, and just how terrifying Faustus's powers can be. Because in the comics, Faustus is essentially Marvel's Hugo Strange, although I'm not sure which one came first, but that's kind of the purpose he serves, except for Captain America. And he's usually just kind of a talker, he's usually just kind of a tool for the Red Skull, but they portray him as a guy that's legitimately terrifying in his own right with this show. And I really like that. And I love the actor. I think he's fantastic, even though he doesn't have like the giant red beard or anything. He's still really good in the role. The one problem I did have, though, is at the very beginning of the episode, when Carter's being interrogated, and then after a little while and after a little tension, she finally concedes and tells them everything they want to know. It felt really weird to me that she didn't just say it from scene one. Like, it felt a little bit petty of her to just like hold the information as long as she did. But other than that, I thought the whole thing still worked, and it still felt like a fantastic episode. I can't wait till next week's finale. This is a show that we'll probably watch great when it's all on Netflix or something like that, and you can binge all 8 episodes together.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give my thoughts real quick, and talk about the big thing that nobody's brought up yet that really excited me, and that is when that vest came out, they kept like showing it at weird angles and hiding it away, and that built this suspense for me where I kept going, what major Marvel thing is it? Like, the whole episode, I kept going, that's something, you know? And when you get to the end of it, it surprised me that it wasn't some big artifact or something that I had heard of, because I kind of thought that's where it was going, but it was kind of the next best...
I think so. I can't hear him.
You guys can't hear me?
Oh, he's back. He's really excited.
All right, can you guys hear me okay?
You keep cutting out.
Oh, really? That's weird, because you guys are fine on my end.
Okay, now it's good, actually.
Okay. That's really that's really strange. You guys are all fine on my end.
All right.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay. But anyway, so you've got this you got this vest thing, and what I thought was really cool about it is that it sort of seemed like kind of like prototype Iron Man armor in a way. They even called it armor, and I liked the kind of symbolic thing and just the imagery of this guy who is making this self-sacrifice, who's doing the Captain America thing, wearing basically Iron Man armor, and it getting that far and him having to do that because of Howard Stark. So like the big thing I keep latching onto is still like the Tony versus Steve thing, and the show continues to play that. And that was a big deal for me. I thought that whole thing was really super cool. I'm so excited to see how this whole thing plays out. Everything's coming together. This is a huge culmination of all the events we've had so far. Really great. A really great. Sorry, I'm reading comments that are saying people can't hear me, which is not good. But anyway, it's like I said, it's a really good culmination of everything that's been going on, and and a lot of really exciting mystery stuff. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and open it up to everybody else and make sure that people can hear me. Okay. Why don't I get more from Steve? Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to talk about this episode because I feel like next week when we finally see what the finale is and what Carter's growth is going to be and where the SSR is left after all this, we're going to have more to say on this episode.
Yeah.
Because it really is just building to that finale. It almost feels like it's going to be some sort of big 2-hour event. I really like Dottie. I want to talk about her just a little bit. I think she's awesome. I think the actress is fantastic. I love how twisted she is. Although, the very end, when the evil bad guy plot is basically just Kingsman, is a little bit strange. Not because they copied each other, because they were produced at the same time. So there's clearly no, like, rip-offs going on or anything. It's just funny to watch Kingsman and then immediately watch Agent Carter, and it's the exact same plan.
That's hilarious. I didn't think of that. Yeah.
I didn't think of that either, because I hadn't seen Kingsman.
That's a good reason, Manos. Manos, you should be able to pick up on things that happen just because they happen.
Normally I do. I'm pretty good at that.
Oh, okay.
But that ending scene, Dan, did you get to share your thoughts yet? Yes, you did. All right, that ending scene at the movie theater was, wow, that was like really horrifying. Actually,
Yeah, right.
That piece together.
I thought it was really like the writing in this is always really sharp and clever. I thought it was so interesting and fun, but like in a creepy way, when those people walk in at the end and that lady is angry with her husband that they didn't get there on time, and he saved their life and doesn't know it.
That's right. Well, they're never having that conversation again. So.
No, they're not. He's gonna get cake every day from now on. She's gonna make him cakes every day.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, something I haven't noticed a lot in the show that kept kind of that I kept catching throughout this episode was the music is really good, and there were a lot of places where it's just like really driving and exciting, but still has that very 40s vibe. This is a movie, you know. I mean, like this is it's an 8-hour movie, and I looked at my wife at the end of this episode and said, I think we're gonna look back on this as one of the better Marvel things, and like it's going to be right up there with a lot of the best films.
Agreed. I'm waiting for the last episode to really kind of sew it together before I make that distinction. But I don't know. I mean, you might be able to make that distinction now because we've had 7 excellent episodes. And I haven't had anything really to complain about with this. And it's done everything right. It's done everything. It's connected things to the other films, and it's done it in such a subtle, intelligent way, and not a stupid, sloppy kind of way where, you know, I feel nudged by the filmmakers. And that's actually what I kind of call this show. I mean, it's film. You're right. It is. It's like a Peter Jackson film. It's 8 hours long, and it's excellent.
I think this is a better character piece than both of the Thor movies. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, importantly, it never drags, like you never feel like, oh, there's this episode that we didn't need. Third episode got close for a second, but I'm sure if I went back and watched the whole thing together, because that's setting a lot of things up that I just don't realize it's setting up as I'm watching it in the first place. So, like, clearly, and I keep saying this, but clearly there was a plan and a vision, and they knew what this was. It's a very involved story. So I'm impressed that I'm not feeling the way I did at the beginning, where I was like, well, you just put that first 2 episodes out in a movie theater, and I would really like that. And you know, I like now I'm like, no, this is a complete thing. We gotta have all this. One thing that I'm also really impressed with is I think I'm the only person on this panel that's been complaining about this. The one reservation I've had this whole time is that the sexism thing is a little bit too in our face, and this episode justifies it hard by making it a huge, giant, important plot thing. That if only these agents would have looked past Agent Carter's gender and seen what she was capable of, a lot of this would have never happened. They would have been a team in the first place. I also really appreciate that right before the final episode, everybody's on the same page already. We're not going to have to spend the whole last episode because this is a misstep that a lot of things will make in a third act, where it's like it takes too long for people to finally all know what's going on. So there's just like a big long expository dialogue that gets everybody caught up in the last 10 minutes, and then we don't have any time to actually explore what those characters would be like together once they all know each other's secrets. We have that now. It also doesn't feel like it may be this, but it sure doesn't feel like it's going to be a 5-minute wrap-up kind of thing. And it also doesn't feel like the story's already over before we get to the last episode. That's an easy thing to do with a thing like this. And so I don't know, I feel very much like we did get a chapter 7 of an 8-chapter thing, and it feels like it could be resolved. Going to be interesting to see what exactly the Leviathan is. I like that we have no idea. I mean, like we're about to the last episode. Leviathan is coming. The Morse code thing was awesome. Leviathan is coming. What exactly is it?
I would be very surprised if all the loose ends get tied up in one episode. I think we're going to get a sequel to this.
Do you think that it'll be a sequel that'll be like where there'll be a big cliffhanger thing though? Because I don't think they'll do it that way. I think it will be mostly resolved. You might be right.
There's so many like pieces on this board right now. I don't see how you resolve all of the stuff with Leviathan and Faustus and found Shield and set up like Bucky as Winter Soldier and do all of the stuff that the show's been hinting at in the last episode.
Yeah,
I think there's a little bit more to come moving forward. There has to be.
I don't know that it'll. But will it necessarily be Carter? Could they be setting up things that they're planning on resolving in other stuff?
That's my thought. I think the major plot lines of this series are going to be tied up.
Yeah.
Any loose ends are going to be picked up on in either the movies or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or if they prefer to do another miniseries.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're setting up stuff that is going to be important later on. I think they might have like figured out problems with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and said, let's actually do a thing that will matter for other movies later. I think they might even be setting up stuff for films. I mean, that could be happening.
Yeah,
and I mean,
true.
importantly, also, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. has at least 2 moments with Carter, and this season opens with Carter, and there's stuff in that context that we still haven't seen explained. So it's very much possible that Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to wrap up a lot of the stuff we're seeing right now.
Sorry, Dan, we're talking over you. Go ahead, man.
I was just going to say, in an ideal world, I would love to see a sequel to this that explores some of the stuff that they're setting up here more rather than see it in some of the films, because I just love the context. I love the 40s vibe of all of this. I mean, I would be honestly sort of disappointed if we don't get to see the formation of S.H.I.E.L.D. all the way back in the 40s. That'd be really disappointing to me.
That's totally fair. I think one thing that could be done, and I mean, Carter is popular. People love it. And so I'm with you. I could totally see a sequel. I just think that most of the major story points will probably be ended up, will probably be wrapped up. But also to your point, Dan, there's plenty more to do with this character, right? I mean, like, this kind of feels, in a way, it feels like sort of an origin thing. She's coming into her own. She's figuring out what she's all about and trying to figure out how to incorporate Captain America's principles into this like really kind of shady lifestyle she's had to live because nobody trusts her. How do you put those things together? Once she gets to actually be a bigwig and people pay attention to her, no, I'm with you. I want to see that too. What I would do is I would make, they won't do this, but I would just forget everything we're doing with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in season 3 and just make Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 3 S.H.I.E.L.D. in the 40s. Yeah. That's what I would do. Just keep it called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. starring Agent Carter. You can't tell me that wouldn't be, like, get a better viewership, right?
And have the Howling Commandos be the rest of the team, the extended cast, and you have the best show of all time that you could possibly have as a S.H.I.E.L.D. show.
Just don't make it a time travel thing. Just don't have Coulson go, but don't do that. I'm gonna read some comments from our viewers. Johnny Tort says, Season 2, Agent Carter versus Fin Fang Foom.
Yes!
Yes, why not?
Awesome.
Jid123 says, my theory is that Leviathan is Hydra because everything is Hydra. And then William Parcell says, of course it's Hydra. I mean, I'm sure that it's Hydra connected. I'm just saying that I don't know what we're gonna see when they're coming. What are we gonna see when they show up? That's my big question. Is what is that?
It'll be interesting to see if they are Hydra, because they seem like they're Russian, and I'm not so sure that Hydra has anything to do with the Russians, but we'll see.
The other problem with it being just straight up Hydra, where like you can tell it's Hydra, they look like Hydra agents, is that it's such a big giant reveal in Winter Soldier that it's treated like nobody's heard of Hydra since Captain America, right? Like, we don't get any sense in that movie that anybody has dealt with them at all, unless it's swept under the rug or something, but that could be too easy. It's played like the last time anybody has talked about Hydra was Red Skull.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, they could be considered like a non-threat at this point.
Yeah, Yeah, that's true. But this Leviathan thing clearly is a threat. But I think Dan's absolutely right. It's got to be connected to Russia. I mean, it obviously is Russian, so I just, it's probably something, either something else or pretending to be something else. Who knows? It's not going to be a reveal to anyone if it's actually Hydra. Everybody's going to go, well, yes, of course. It's Hydra. Of course. Okay, let's talk for just a couple more minutes. We are out of time. You guys, while I'm looking at comments, any other big, major important things you want to mention that we haven't talked about yet? Any scenes you want to talk about, anything like that?
People are saying they want Gotham to get canceled.
We'll talk about that later. We're doing Gotham discussions next. We'll talk all about it, folks.
Well, not before Arrow.
No, stop it.
Maybe we should take bets. Which one will get canceled first?
Look.
Someone had a really interesting idea.
Go ahead, Dan.
Someone said that it would be really cool if we see Hank Pym young in the Agent Carter sequel. That would be awesome.
That would work.
Well,
that would work.
I know that Agent Carter has popped up in that comic book prequel to the Ant-Man film.
Yeah.
And I have heard that she's supposed to be in it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, well then maybe that's exactly what they're doing, because what comics are for right now is to spoil you on things that haven't come out in the movies yet.
Yeah, that's good. But I think if you check the IMDb page, I think Haley Atwell is listed on the Ant-Man cast.
Oh
yeah,
my
she's
goodness!
To be in that movie.
I didn't know that. That's exciting. That's really cool, especially because her show is really popular. Boy, Haley Atwell's got to be over the moon, right? That she gets this somewhat typical female role. It's good, but somewhat typical. In First Avenger, and then suddenly she gets her own TV show, and she's popping in other movies. And whoever thought after Winter Soldier, or not Winter Soldier, whoever thought that after First Avenger, Agent Carter would be one of our favorite characters in Marvel Cinematic, right? Did anybody think? I didn't think that.
I thought she was dead. So,
Manos, that's a really fair point. But I'm just saying that if that's all we had gotten from her, I wouldn't even remember her name necessarily. I'm not a big Captain America fan. In fact, I should also mention I didn't know who Faustus was, so now I really want to look into that, especially because with what you guys were talking about with Faustus and Red Skull, isn't this really cool? You got Agent Carter, who's the stand-in now for Captain America because he's gone, and she kind of has her own arch nemesis who is kind of like the stand-in for Red Skull. That's really cool.
Mm. And he's working with the Black Widow before Black Widow person, and Jarvis, who's the Vision before Vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Josh 18.
When we talk about this, it's actually more awesome than I think it is.
Josh 18686 says Hank Pym would be a baby right now in this timeline. That's a good point. But the problem is that we have a tendency in things like this to kind of finagle that a little bit. But yes, that's true. I mean, Hank Pym, from what we've seen in the commercials in the previews for Ant-Man, doesn't look any older than my dad. And my dad was born in '64, so.
Well, here's the thing. Or
much older.
Peggy
Anyway.
Carter should have probably been still working with S.H.I.E.L.D. probably in the '60s and '70s.
Yeah, at least as a consultant or something.
Yeah, and Michael Douglas, we know, I mean, he was doing TV shows as young action heroes in the '70s, so it's very likely that that's where their connection would be.
Oh, okay, well, maybe he is supposed to be a little bit older than that, then. Maybe he is more like mid-60s. I keep thinking of him as being 50, but I think he's just aged well.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, you're right, he is older than that. Yeah, but you gotta admit, he looks really good, yeah?
Oh, he does, yeah.
Well, hell, his dad's still alive. Kirk Douglas is still with him.
Yeah. Well, anyway, folks, why don't we go ahead and, somebody just said that he was born in '44. Yeah, he'd be 2 years old right now in Agent Carter. Well, that's not to say that a character is always the same age as the actor, but you know what I mean. Anyway, well, that's going to be it for us for Agent Carter Discussions. Thanks a bunch to our live internet audience for their contributions to the show. And guys, I can't wait for the last episode, but it's going to be kind of bittersweet, especially if we do not get Dan's hoped for sequel. But that does seem like a thing that is likely in the future. I guess we'll see how much of this stuff gets wrapped up. But anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. We sure appreciate it. I'm Captain Logan, and this was Dan Torrey.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
The Real Manos! And beware the Steve Baxi.
See you, everyone.
See you, folks.